Introduction. Hello, this is David, and thank you very much for coming to join us for this chapter. So let's go through this introduction. The course says, to heal is to make happy. I have told you to think how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourself and how many you have refused. This is the same as telling you that you have refused to heal yourself. The light that belongs to you is the light of joy. Radiance is not associated with sorrow. Joy calls forth an integrated willingness to share it. So now let's start slowing down here. First of all, it's telling us that healing and joy are one and the same thing. That it's like looking at the same thing from two different angles, you know. On one side it looks like healing, on the other side it looks like joy. So whenever you're having joy, you're actually healing. Whenever you're healing, you're actually having joy, you know. So it's saying that whenever you've been given an opportunity by life to gladden yourself, to have joy, and you have refused it or turned it down, as the course has reminded us many times, it's the same as saying that we have refused to heal. Okay? And then it's going on now to tell us that joy has an integrated willingness to share it. In other words, the minute you have joy, it comes with built in it you could say, will. The will, actually. It's not even the desire or the wanting, it's the will. The will to share it. Yeah? And then it promotes the mind's natural impulse to respond as one. So again here, underlined words, natural. The mind has a natural, it's built in, impulse. It can't even resist it. To respond as one. These words that are underlined are very important. We're being taught here that the mind's natural state of being is oneness. And joy comes with a built-in willingness to share joy that also triggers the mind's natural impulse to respond as one. Okay, those who attempt to heal without being wholly joyous themselves call forth different kinds of responses at the same time, and thus deprive others of the joy of responding wholeheartedly. Yeah. So it's simply saying, you know, don't attempt to heal without being wholly joyous, because then it's just going to mess up the whole thing, you know, in a nutshell. To be wholehearted, you must be happy. If fear and love cannot coexist, and if it is impossible to be wholly fearful and remain alive, the only possible whole state is that of love. Okay? So it's reminding us that fear and love do not coexist, and it is not possible to be 100% fearful and remain alive. That if you are to ever achieve a state of 100% fearful, you would die. But you cannot die. You are eternal. Therefore, you can also not achieve 100% fear. So it's saying that the only, because you cannot get a whole state of fear. We've already seen why. The only other whole state that is possible is love. Okay? And there's no difference between love and joy. Therefore, the only possible whole state is the wholly joyous. That is the only time as a being you can feel whole. Any other time you will feel separated, split, disintegrated, you know, like spread all over the place. And okay, to heal or to make joyous, remember it's the same thing, healing and making joy, same thing, is therefore the same as to integrate and to make one. So I hope you've been following the logic so far. Yeah? That the only time you're ever going to feel whole, wholesome, one, is also the only time you're going to feel joyous, also the only time you're going to be fully healed. So it's also the only time you're going to be fully in love. It's also the only time you're going to have zero fear. It's the same state. That is why it makes no difference to what part or by what part of the sonship the healing is offered. Every part benefits and benefits equally, again because the sonship is one. So it doesn't really matter what part is touched, the whole of it feels it or is affected. Okay? By the healing. Yeah. So any part of the sonship touched by healing affects the whole, or rather promotes the whole. You are being blessed by every beneficent thought of any of your brothers anywhere. Wow, slow down here. You know, quite often we think, oh, it's only me, there's nothing I can do by myself. I'm such a small little piece of the whole universe. There's, you know, I'm meaningless and insignificant. No, the cause here is saying you're an extremely crucial, not important, crucial, as in the universe cannot do without you. Do you understand that? The universe cannot do without you. Okay? So every time you have a beneficent thought, yeah, you have raised the whole universe. That's how much goodness you're doing. Every time you have a beneficent thought, you have lifted the whole universe, the entire sonship. You should want to bless them in return out of gratitude. You need not know them individually, or they you. So you don't need to know anyone in person. You don't need to have a group that you lead. You can just do it in your own privacy if you want. You know, just follow your calling. The light is so strong that it radiates throughout the sonship and returns thanks to the Father for radiating his joy upon it. Okay? Only God's holy children are worthy channels of his beautiful joy, because only they are beautiful enough to hold it by sharing it. You see, you hold it by sharing it. You cannot hold it by not sharing it. You have to share it. Sharing it is the way you hold it. That's just important. Again, we're just being reminded something we've talked about many times before in this course. It is impossible for a child of God to love his neighbor except as himself. That is why the healer's prayer is. Okay, before we continue to see what the healer's prayer is, this last sentence. It is impossible for a child of God to love his neighbor except as himself. You know, in the Bible, Jesus says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. This is a twist of the words here. That kind of what limits you from loving others is your own self-love. Because that's as much as you'll be able to love somebody else, to the extent that you love yourself. So that is why the so-called selfish act of developing self-love is so crucial to the entire sonship. Learn to love yourself. Okay, let's look at the healer's prayer. Let me know this brother as I know myself. Start to see yourself in other people. Yeah. So quite often we think we're too small compared to others. That, oh, everyone else is so great, and we have this hidden damage, you could say, a secret damage that no one else has except us. You know, sometimes we run around thinking that's a stupid idea, because it is stupid. Because quite literally, we are almost all the same. We just have variations of the same stuff, you could say. You know? Yeah, sure, the variations might look like huge differences, but they're still variations of the same stuff. We're quite literally the same. Yeah? So start to recognize yourself in others, and in that way you'll develop a great deal of compassion, and you'll also start to have that charity of, you know, being able to see other people, the divine in other people. You'll be able to see the divine in other people. But even when you don't see the divine in other people, that is called ultimate charity, you'll be able to have compassion, because you'll be able to recognize that, hey, even when you think somebody's doing something totally messy and wrong and everything, you can still see how they're just crying out for help. Just like you, when you're in your darkest moment and you're doing something that's completely, ridiculous, somebody else might come and say, oh my God, David, are you crazy? This is so stupid. Why can't you see this? In those states, we're just crying out for help. So compassion and charity is sort of the end result and the way to loving your neighbor as you love yourself. So that was the introduction, quite short as you can imagine. So now thank you very much for that, and I'll see you in the first topic, actually, because this was just the introduction. So now let's get into the first topic of this chapter. Thank you.